We got a Miami Dolphins mailbag. That's the edition of Dolphins Today here on this episode. I am Nic Rohloff. Got to make sure you join us for our live shows on Monday or Tuesdays to get in the mailbag. This is a normal one, no IG Q&A, which we did on Sunday. We're going to start with a super chat from Kevin Hargrove. Fins up! If Miami traded up to the 7th overall pick with the Commanders, which has been thrown out there in the past, who do you think they would take or who would you pick? Well, I think it's pretty clear that Miami, if they traded up, would be looking to take an elite defensive player. Why do I think it's more in that range? It's because I think more and more time goes on, it becomes more and more likely that Francis Mauigoa could be there at 11. So if the Dolphins did want to trade up with the Commanders at 7, it would be for defense because the projected picks at 7, 8, 9, 10 are all defense. It'd be in no order: Caleb Downs, Rueben Bain, Mansour Delane, and I'm missing. What was the other one? Delane, Downs, Bain, and maybe Bailey. Let's just say that. But the point I'm trying to make is like those are the guys rumored to go in that area. So if Miami trade up to 7, it's clearly because they want to jump teams like New Orleans, Kansas City, and Cincinnati, who are likely going defense. If I had to guess, it would be for Caleb Downs. That's also who I would pick because Downs is an all-pro, in my opinion. I have him top 3 in my big board, regardless of position, in this draft. I think he's a dominant, versatile safety, and we know Jeff Hafley likes versatility at a safety position, and it's an important position in his defensive scheme. So if they trade up to 7, I think it's for Caleb Downs. Larry Miller with a 10. Would you draft Ohio State defensive tackle Kayden McDonald at 30 to stop the run and add pressure on the QB to take pressure off the edges to increase their production? More of a generate pressure up the middle and let your edge rushers clean it up and maybe get more one-on-ones. Similar to what the New England Patriots did this past year, honestly, with Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, and then they just had Caleb Von Chase and Harold Landry kind of clean up a lot on the outside. I don't envision Miami doing that. If you're also asking if I would do that, I would not. I think Kayden McDonald is a really good player and a prospect, but I do have a lot of faith in second-year leaps for Kenneth Grant, who was a first-round pick at 13 a year ago. And I do believe as well that Jordan Phillips as well as Zeke Biggers will be good rotation pieces at that position. And then you also are bringing back Zach Sealer for another year, who was much better in the second half of the season than the first half in 2025. So I just would utilize pick 30 to go after an edge rusher like Zion Young, TJ Parker, maybe a corner like Colton Hood, Chris Johnson, a safety like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren potentially. Like, that is kind of where I'm looking at pick 30 instead of defensive tackle. But I've seen Kayden McDonald go in the second round in some mock drafts. If Kayden McDonald was available at 43 for Miami, I would definitely pick him there. If you want 24/7 coverage on the Dolphins, not only do you have to be subscribed, you got to go follow me over on Twitter/X. Appreciate the 3,000 people that already follow me. Looking to get to 4,000 sooner rather than later. At Nic_Rohloff's the handle. 24/7 coverage on the Fins. Terps with a $10 super chat. What's up, Terps? Bring in the hype, he says. I love it. I was able to get Rueben Bain, Omar Cooper Jr., Emmanuel Pregnon, Kane Stukes, Max Klare, and Malik Muhammad in my 3-round mock draft. I think I did all right. What do you think, Fins up? Listen, that'd be a home run. It would. I would be fired up with Rueben Bain at 11 because the Dolphins need an edge rusher. I think Bain's a stud. Omar Cooper Jr. is my favorite wide receiver amongst the 3 projected to go late round 1, that being obviously Cooper, but both Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. I think Cooper's got decent size of position, more fluid of a route runner. I think he just projects better at the next level. Pregnon, I think, could be a day 1 interior offensive lineman. Stukes is a versatile DB, could play in the slot, could play on the outside, could play even a little bit safety. Max Klare could be a nice all-around tight end to complement Greg Dulcich, as well as Ben Sims. And Malik Muhammad could be another corner that plays for you in multiple different areas. So if that ended up being the Miami Dolphins, is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're missing one day 2 pick because, remember, Miami has 7 top 100 picks. You're missing one. Unless you traded up and didn't tell me. That's certainly possible as well. But if those 6 were Dolphins in the first 2 rounds of the draft, I think all of us would be extremely happy about that. I'm giving you an A- because I don't know what happened in the other mock draft. Whitewall Gaming. If Rueben, Bain, and Mauigoa are both available at 11, would you trade the 30th pick in next year's first for the 12th pick to get both of them? Also maybe 30, 43 in next year's second. Wow, loaded question. I'm going to answer no to both of them. I think if Bain or Mauigoa are both available, you say that's very exciting and you take whatever one you have higher on your board. I would probably lean Rueben Bain because I think there's less of a drop-off at offensive line than there is edge, and I would take Bain because it's just a clear drop-off between him and the next edge compared to Mauigoa and then other edge or offensive linemen because you can still get Ianacor, you still get a Blake Miller, Proctor potentially, a Lamu late in the first round. But the reason why I say no is because I'm not trading a first in next year's draft. That would be like if you follow the NBA. Like the New Orleans Pelicans trading their 2027 first-round pick to get Derek Queen. Because the Dolphins, even if they get Mauigoa and Bain, could easily be a bottom 5 team in the NFL next year. It's more likely than not. So you're telling me you're willing to trade a top 5 pick to get Rueben Bain? Like, I like Bain. I like Mauigoa. I ain't trading a top 5 pick in next year's draft potentially to get one of them because that pick could be really useful to get a Jeremiah Smith, a Colin Simmons, a quarterback if Malik Willis doesn't work out. You can't trade next year's first round pick. I wouldn't trade any next year draft capital to move up in this year's draft. Let me know, though, in the opposite direction. Would you trade down in the first round if someone came calling with a good offer for pick 11 or pick 30? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Corpse, Chop Robinson and 30 for the Cowboys pick 12. So if you watched our video a couple days or yesterday, which was ESPN Blockbuster Trade Ideas, they had Chop Robinson and 30 for the 14th overall pick. I think I would have to see what happens on draft night. All right, so let's say this. The scenario that the previous question from Whitewall happens. Both Mauigoa and Rueben Bain are on the board for 11, and then you drafted Bain and then traded Chop and 30 to move up to get Mauigoa at 12. Yeah, I would trade Chop Robinson to get Rueben Bain and Mauigoa both in the first round. I would do that. But if it's not that, and Bain, Mauigoa either are they're both gone by the Dolphins picking 11, then there's no player at 12 that I'm that intrigued with to trade Chop Robinson because he's got 2 more years left on a cheap rookie deal, and then you still have his 5th-year option potentially in 2028. I think that is really valuable, and if you're trading up, you might be just looking to draft his replacement anyway, and we need Chop to fill out this room because if you get rid of him, you got David Ajabu and Josh Uche. That ain't good enough. I'm keeping Chop Robinson unless it was that one dream scenario Whitewall just brought up to where you're getting both Bain and Mauigoa. Leo, would you consider taking a wide receiver like Omar Cooper Jr. at 30, or would you rather wait for later rounds at that point? I think Omar Cooper Jr. is the only wide receiver I would take at 30. I've said that before. I have him as my wide receiver 4 behind Tyson, Lemon, and Tate. Those 3 being in no order, by the way. I have him above Boston, above Concepcion. I don't love Boston separations. Plus, both Casey Concepcion and Boston have a sub 2.0 yards per route run against zone coverage. And historically, wide receivers drafted in the first 2 rounds with a sub 2.0 yards per route run against zone coverage are busts. I mean, we've got players like N'Keal Harry, like Tyquan Thornton. The best wide receiver to be drafted in that range that has a sub 2.0 yards per route run against zone is Brian Thomas Jr. That's being since 2019. So over the last 6 years, these type of wide receivers, Boston, Concepcion, historically have not worked out at the next level, despite what the tape might say. I'm not buying it, especially with Concepcion having drop issues. So Cooper Jr., yes, I'm in on him at 30. Only one, though. I'd wait till rounds 2 and rounds 3 to address wide receiver if Cooper, Tyson, Lemon, Tate are off the board at 30, which we know at least Lemon and Tate are going to be off the board. Tyson could be there. Never know with the injury concerns. Make sure you do subscribe, though, because not only are we bringing you weekly live shows and being live for the NFL Draft, we'll also have you covered with 2 videos every day over the next 2 weeks leading up to Thursday's April 23rd draft. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Cash Moons, what is the farthest you would move up or down in a trade? That's a good question because you have to factor in what it would cost you to move up and what it would cost you to move down. Now, for this question and experiment, I am going to only use the 30th overall pick, 11th overall pick as an example. Moving up from 11, I think the highest I would go is 7. Because I think you'd have to attach 2 third-rounders to move up. Like, you move up to 7 and you trade pick 90 and 94 alongside 11. That's too rich for me, but that just tells you if you're moving up, that's probably the farthest I'd be willing to do it for. And then factoring a trade down, I think it's 10 spots. Like, we talked about trade down scenarios in a video the other day, and I've done it before. Moving down 10 spots with the Steelers at 21 is the farthest I'd be willing to move because I think at 21, you would still be able to get a high-level player, whether it is Jermod McCoy, who slips a little bit, a safety like Dylan Thieneman, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. You get a good offensive lineman like a Caden Proctor if he slips, or Spencer Fanu if he slips. You can grab a wide receiver, Jordan Tyson, potentially as well. So 21 is kind of my range. And a trade down hypothetical we've talked about is you move 11 to the Steelers and you get 21, 51, and then 99. So you would get a second and a third round pick for moving down 10 spots. I would do that. That's as far as I'm moving down. I am J-Bro. What about a Dexter Lawrence trade? So earlier this week on Monday, Adam Schefter reported that star defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence requested a trade from the Giants. I don't think Miami would even contemplate it. And for multiple different reasons. One, you'd have to expend draft capital, which we know John Eric Sullivan doesn't really want to do right now because he wants to build through the draft. Two, Lawrence is wanting a new contract. Is Miami going to pay him a new deal that he's getting probably $30 million per season? Probably not. So you factor in age, Miami not being a contender, new contract needed, and having to give up draft capital. I think there is no world where the Dolphins think about, let alone call, let alone trade Dexter Lawrence. But I appreciate the question, J-Bro. Clarky, what round do you envision us taking quarterback? I'm hoping for Cole Payton, but I think he's going to be QB3 in this class. I'll say this about the quarterback class this year. It is all over the place. Like, I think pretty consensus, Mendoza, Ty Simpson. Some people have Simpson 1. Those are your top 2 guys. QB3 is where it starts. Some people will go back to Garrett Nussmeier's 2024 tape and have him at QB3. Some people will have the cyborg Taylon Green. Some people will have Drew Aller. Some people will have Carson Beck. Some people have Cole Payton, the athletic dual-threat lefty from North Dakota State. Now, if I'm envisioning a quarterback being taken from Miami, I think it starts in round 5. Maybe round 4. But I just have a hard time envisioning the Dolphins taking a quarterback in the top 100 after signing Malik Willis and having Quinn Ewers. We know they're going to draft one, but is it worth taking in the top 100 when you have needs at safety, corner, wide receiver, edge, O-line, tight end? The list goes on and on. Are you burning a top 100 pick on a quarterback? Because you hope that Malik Willis is your QB1 and you never have to play any of these guys. I like Cole Payton a lot. I think I'm looking at quarterback in round 5. So you want to bring up Nussmeier, Payton, Taylon Green, Drew Aller in that range. That's kind of who I'm targeting. But who knows where quarterbacks go this year. It's not a good quarterback class, so who knows. Tristan, what did you think about Jermod McCoy's pro day? Excuse me. It was awesome. For him personally. Does it make me want to draft McCoy? Not necessarily, because him being out last year does still concern me coming off a torn ACL. But he did a great job in terms of upping his draft stock, because I think most people now have him as a shoe-in to go anywhere between 11 and 17. I think I want to say. I rarely do I see a mock draft of him going past the 17 overall pick. I wouldn't take him at 11. I'd rather go offensive line because I'm scared of that injury. But him running as good as a 40 as he did, him testing vertical and broad jump and going through cornerback drills at a good level, I think tells you a lot about where he is health-wise. Teams are going to be in on McCoy. His 2024 tape was gross in a good way, that is. I like Jermod McCoy. I just wouldn't use the 11th pick on him. More questions can be asked and answered over on my Twitter, so go give me a follow if you want more coverage, but also didn't get featured on this mailbag. @Nic_Rohloff is the handle.